First of all, what is OCD? OCD stands for Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. It is one of the 10 most disabling diseases in the world, according to the World Health Organization. People who have this disorder experience involuntary, irrational, and repetitive thoughts, called obsessions. You don't want to be thinking about those things, but those thoughts are still there, causing you to feel bad and nervous. These obsessions generate a high level of anguish, anxiety, and fear. People with this disorder feel the need to perform compulsive actions called compulsions to feel safe and neutralize the unpleasant sensations associated with obsessions. This causes an infinite cycle between obsession, compulsion, and relief, which seriously affects the person's life and the ability to engage in the different activities in which they participate in. However, it is not only about that. OCD is also related to doubts about the values, actions, intentions, and identity of the person at all times. All of this makes its coping very exhausting, thus making people with OCD struggle with low self-esteem and a great difficulty in their day-to-day life, affecting their energy, capacity, and happiness. It is worth mentioning that OCD always comes with great suffering. From a sensation of feeling trapped, that you have to do the compulsion or else you will never be calm. This is why it is important to differentiate when someone does something because it gets them satisfaction or they are simply bothered by a detail, unlike when someone does something because they have OCD. For example, a person may love to be tidy, and it bothers them when things are not in their place. Therefore, the fact of putting things in place gives them a sense of satisfaction. On the other hand, a person with OCD may think that if they do not order something in a certain way, they will have bad luck, so they have to do it no matter what to avoid that bad thing from happening. But how does OCD happen? Let's think that our brain has a filter mechanism, which discards the thoughts that do not help us and keeps the thoughts that do. For people with OCD, this filter tends to fail, so it saves irrational thoughts, or thoughts with some truth, but they are amplified to make it seem more terrible than it really is. Among the topics that OCD can be presented include religion, guilt, sexuality, morality, relational, cleanliness and order, damage, and somatic. As we have mentioned, if you listen to OCD, you get relief. But the catch is that it always wants more. The relief only lasts a few moments, but OCD will always come back and want more and more. You can think of it as a kid in the supermarket asking his mom to buy him a candy. The mother tells him no, but her son begins to throw a tantrum. So, to finally calm him down, the mother buys him the candy even if she doesn't agree. So what happens next? Every time they go to the supermarket, the child will throw a tantrum to get the candy again, because he has already learned that this is the way he gets it. The same goes for OCD. It will always want more, and when it learns that it gets what it wants in a certain way, it will keep trying to get it. This is how you can get trapped in a cycle of obsessions, compulsions, and relief. But what happens if we say no to OCD? The anguish will grow, but it will not last long. Then OCD may try other tricks to make you fall and get you to listen to it. But if you stand your ground and keep saying no, OCD will start to fade. Which leads us to know the OCD tricks with which it tries to deceive you. The first, sound the alarm. Our brains have a mechanism for us to act quickly when there is something that can hurt us. So in dangerous situations, our brain activates an alarm, making us have more energy to react, keeping us alert, and making muscle changes for a possibility of escape. This is called fight or flight response. What OCD does is set off this alarm when we're actually safe, making us activate anxiety and a sense of danger when there really is none. The next OCD trick is the game of the odds. OCD makes us doubt everything and wants us to have total certainty about things. It also plays with the probabilities of things, indicating that the possibility of the worst is greater than it actually is. OCD makes us unable to tolerate uncertainty, making us have to confirm in one or another way what we want to know 100%, or else we will not feel safe. But really, there are things we can know, and that's okay. The key to overcoming it here is not to get an accurate answer because there is none, but to tolerate uncertainty. We are not sure, and that's okay. And its last main trick is the disappearance of the feeling that everything is fine. Normally, people feel good. We do our day-to-day activities without focusing on details. But OCD makes that feeling go away, and in order for you to feel good again, you have to do certain actions that it asks of you. OCD also generates a problem in the area of the brain that notifies us when we have already performed a task, so we tend to do the same thing over and over again. So, how do we recognize OCD? You have to think about the common patterns of OCD, which consist of generating very distressing thoughts and the need to make a compulsion. So, if you have a thought that causes you a lot of anguish, and you feel that you must do or not do something so that something bad does not happen, it is because it is OCD. It's a very strong feeling, which makes you feel like you can't go on living if you don't do what OCD is asking you to do. But as we have seen, this is simply a false alarm. OCD is also called the doubt disorder. This is because it makes us doubt everything we do, and we tend to overthink the effect of our actions on the world. This can lead to even more things, making us doubt our identity, values, and ideals. OCD can make you doubt your intentions, past and future, actions, identity, dreams, memories, emotions and feelings, and desires. Which brings us to intrusive thoughts. These are thoughts that everyone has, but the common thing is that they quickly pass through our head and we dismiss them. But for people with OCD, it's different. OCD tries to make you believe that thought defines who you are, and that if you thought it, it's already true. So it can try to make you believe that you're a bad person, that you're a pervert, or a degenerate. But this is where another of its traps is present. These are just lies. A thought is just a thought. It says nothing about you or who you are. And now what do we do? When OCD is recognized and you decide to ignore it, a very strong feeling of anguish will come. But it will only last for a moment, until your body gets used to it and realizes that there is nothing to be afraid of. One way to deal with OCD is by replying to it. OCD can be thought of a small monster that just wants to annoy you. Then, when it appears, you reply to it and tell it that you don't want to listen to it, to shut up, and to leave you alone. But it is important to not respond to the content of OCD, but to OCD itself. If you reply to the content, OCD will always look for a way to make you doubt or keep thinking about it. OCD loves to debate, so don't fall into that trap. Instead, you have to speak directly to OCD. It's important to note that OCD is not part of your identity or who you are. You are not the OCD. Finally, it is very relevant to teach OCD who is really in charge. OCD can dictate our lives and tell us what we should or shouldn't do. We are free beings who can decide for ourselves, calmly and without suffering in the process. Here are some strategies you can use to ignore it. Make it wait. OCD always wants everything now. It can't wait, so what you have to do is make it wait. Even if it throws a tantrum, you have to stand firm and wait. Normally, when you make it wait, the urge to do the compulsion fades and you will realize that everything is fine. If it still doesn't go away, you can add more time until it finally leaves. Leave. This one is simple. If OCD asks you to do something in a certain place, you leave that place. Thus, you limit the possibility of doing the compulsion. Set limits. You can do things fewer times than OCD asks you to do. If it tells you to close the door 3 times, you close it only 2, until you decrease it enough and you don't have to do it again. Change the ritual. If OCD wants you to do something in a certain way, do it another way. If you wash your hands and it demands one order, do it in another. Make it fun. Change and start playing with what it tells you. If it wants you to do something a certain number of times, you can start counting like crazy until you lose count. Flip a coin. Flip a coin. If you get heads, you don't do what OCD asks of you. But if you get tails, you decide if you want to do it or not. Challenge it. This one is scary, but it's very useful. Test the power that OCD claims to have. If it tells you that if you don't do something there will be a negative consequence, don't do it. Then you will see that nothing happened, and that it is one of the great lies of OCD. And finally, do the opposite. This is very difficult, but it is a big step to beat OCD. If OCD asks you to do something, don't do it. If it tells you not to do something, do it. In this way, you are showing it that it has no power over you, and that nothing bad will happen if you do what is supposed to cause something bad. Let's summarize. When we recognize that the OCD impulse appears, activate the OCD alarm. Respond to it. Use a method to show it who is in charge. Remember that the feelings of fear you have are coming from OCD and the dangers are not real. When you see that nothing happens when you don't listen to it, you will feel amazing. Thus, the fear will begin to disappear more and more. But you have to be careful because OCD never gives up. It can try to deceive you in several ways after seeing that in others you have already beaten it. But stand firm. No means no. Fighting OCD progress doesn't require us to do it without fear. It is about doing it with fear. Remember that the fear is real, but the danger is not. And the most complicated thing is that all of this suffering is experienced in silence. Since many obsessions and compulsions are mental, no one notices how much the OCD patient suffers, so they can feel very alone. This is why it is very important to ask for help from the people around you and see a professional, so that they can guide you and give you all the tools to beat OCD. It is a very difficult path, but it can be achieved. You can do it!